Hey everybody, Josh here again. Welcome back to the channel. We're in the garage today, guys. Hey, sorry about content being spread out a little bit. Just been busy at work. We had Hurricane Helene, Hurricane Milton. Luckily, where I am on my side of the state, we only had some tornadoes from Milton. Wasn't too bad. But, you know, we're getting back into the swing of things now. And it's time to do the first oil change on the DRZ, guys. So, you know, I know it's an oil change. It should be simple. It should be easy, which it is. Except on the DRZ, it's a little tiny bit different. So on the DRZ, there's actually 2 drain plugs, and the process for checking the oil is different, right? Most modern motorcycles, just lean them to one side, you got the sight glass, you see where the level is, it's real easy. On the DRZ, you gotta warm it up, and then you gotta pull the dipstick out, check it, put it back in, and so it's a little bit different from your typical motorcycle, but it's not all that difficult, guys. Like I said, it's just 2 different drain plugs, and change the oil filter and stuff like that. So we're gonna get over to getting this started, and we'll go from there. Okay, guys, like I was saying, there's 2 spots where we have to drain the oil from. You can see right here, I'm gonna try to get a good shot of it there. That's the frame drain plug. So there's actually oil in the frame of the DRZ, and then underneath here, guys, we have, you see that big bolt right there? It's a 14 millimeter. That's the engine case drain. So we have to drain the oil out of both of those spots. So I'm going to crack those open and let them drain out. They say to start with the frame plug first and then go move on to the engine case. So that's what I'm going to do here. So let me get those drained and I'll catch back up with you guys in a moment. Alright guys, so first lesson learned with this is when I took the plug out, the oil started to back down into the factory skid plate here. So we're going to, starting right now and from now on, we're going to take that factory skid plate off. So I'm going to grab the sockets to do that, and we're going to take that factory skid plate off to try to keep the mess to a minimum, because it ran all down in here and inside the frame and stuff, and I just don't want all that old oil and stuff in there. So one more quick point, guys. So the frame drain plug is up here, and then you see this hose come down and it comes into the case here. Some people make the mistake of taking this hose off. That's just the oil feed line, and draining the oil from there. When you look at it way back here, this is where the drain plug actually is. So don't take this one out like some people, I've seen it online, some people have made that mistake. This is your drain plug for your engine case. So that's the next one we got to take out, and it's a 14 millimeter. So we'll get that out and get that drained now. Okay guys, so one other difference too that you may have is if you're not running the Drz400 engine case guards, then you won't have to do this step. But I basically have to take this engine case guard off first because our oil filter is behind here, and there's a cover behind there that's for the oil filter. So I need to take this cover off first, this whole black cover, then I can take the oil filter out and change the filter, put my plugs back in and add my oil. But again, this is a step that you won't have to do if you're not running the Drz400 side the case covers, because you know your oil filter will just be exposed, and I'll show you that once I get the cover off. Alright guys, now that we got the cover off, we can just take these 3 bolts out, and our filter and O-ring and stuff will be behind there, and then we'll get the new filter in and we'll go from there. And you'll want to pay attention, guys, as you're taking these off. First, this is under spring pressure. There's a spring behind there, and there will be a little oil that spills out that you'll have to clean up after the fact. So just pay attention to that as you're taking those nuts off, so that you're expecting the mess, because otherwise you're going to end up with oil all over your floor. Alright guys, as you're finishing up, you're cleaning out the spot for the filter and everything like that, you're going to notice, guys, back in here, there's a little O-ring. I'm going to try to pull it out here so you guys can see it. There it is. Let me grab that O-ring. But there's an O-ring. This O-ring goes around this shaft here to meet up with the oil filter. And then there's also, guys, in the cover, you can see this big O-ring here. So when you do the oil changes, you probably could get away with going a couple oil changes without replacing it, especially if the O-ring is in really good shape. But they're cheap enough to just get new ones and replace them. So that's what I did here, guys. I have the filter and the 2 O-rings that we need right here. So I'm going to put the new ones in, and we're going to get the cover back on here. And then we'll put the plugs in. We'll be putting oil back in. It's also a good idea, guys. So I put the new O-ring here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to touch a little bit of oil on my finger. I'm just going to lube that O-ring up before it makes the seal. That way, guys, it just doesn't get stuck. I mean, it's something you would do if this was a cartridge style filter. You know what I mean? You would just put a little oil on there. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll get this bolted back on. One other thing to note, guys, on the cover there is an arrow, an up arrow. Now you really couldn't turn it and put it the wrong way, but there is an up arrow on the cover, so you should make sure that the up arrow is facing that way when you put this cover back on. And then with the spring tension in the back, guys, once you get the cover lined up here on the studs, you are going to have to put some tension on it to get the nuts on there. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll be back to put the plugs back in, and we'll get some oil in this bike. One thing that is nice about the DRZ, guys, is we fill the oil right from the top here, right from this where the frame is, where you check it. So a little easier than trying to get it down on the engine case with some of the other motorcycles we have. Like the MT-09 has a little spot on the side of the engine, so you got to be down there. So at least filling the oil, that's pretty easy on the DRZ. So I just dumped 2 quarts of oil in there, which is what it calls for. I'm going to get the cap back in there. We're going to back it out. I'm going to warm the bike up for like 5 minutes or 8 minutes or so. Just let it warm up and run. And then we'll roll it back in and we'll check the oil, see where we're at. Alright guys, so the directions basically say to run the bike for 5 minutes or whatever, let it sit for a couple minutes, and then you're supposed to then unscrew the cap here, which is the oil cap, right? And connected to the oil cap is the dipstick, which you'll see here in a minute. Right, then you're supposed to obviously wipe the dipstick clean, drop this back in. They say to take and level the bike out. So we're going to do that, stand it up straight. Sorry guys, I'm trying to do it with one hand. And we're going to then pull the dipstick again. And guys, you can see right there, we are right in the middle where the good range is. So we are perfect. So we're going to wipe our stick, put our cap back in. And get it tightened down there. Okay. And then we're going to lay the bike back on the kickstand there. And that's it, guys. That's an oil change on a Drz400. From what I understand, guys, from other people I've talked to, the procedure is the same on every year from 2000 on up. So it should be pretty simple. Like I said, a little more complicated than your normal because there's 2 drain plugs, and the checking the oil procedure is a little bit more complicated because you got to let the bike warm up and then stand it up. Where most other vehicles, guys, there's either a dipstick or a sight window. As long as it's on level ground, you just take a look and you're good. So that's it, guys. More content to come. I'm gonna eliminate the pair valve on this thing. I'm gonna put in a fuel mixture screw because right now it's got a brass plug and it's closed off on it. So I got more work coming on the DRZ, and hopefully I'll get those videos out over here in the next few weeks, few months. It all depends on how busy I am. So until the next one, guys, you stay safe.